Thank you. I appreciate you all being here. It's hard to believe I'm wrapping up my third season as commissioner. It's been a great first 3 years. I'd like to thank our board, our ADs, student athletes, and administrators for their incredible support. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize President Livingstone. As her 2 years of board chair wrap up, she's been an incredible partner, and I look forward to working with Doug Gerard, President Gerard, who's our incoming chair. It was a strong year for the Big 12. We saw national championships in 4 Olympic sports, finals appearances for men's basketball, gymnastics, and tennis, and a heck of a game in the CFP quarterfinals. We had 3 great days of meetings here in Orlando. Our men's and women's basketball coaches were here, ADs, board members, SWAs, FARs, as well as many student athletes. Additionally, I want to thank Charlie Baker and our many media, commercial, and bowl partners that also made the trip here to Orlando. This upcoming football season will kick off our new 6-year TV deal with Fox and ESPN and their sub-license partners CBS, TNT, and NBC. Throughout the week, we spent a lot of time discussing settlement, CFP, new governance models, and the business of the Big 12. On the CFP format, I want to reiterate our preference for a 5-11 format. It's fair and it rewards performance. We will distribute this year $558 million to our member institutions, which is a record high. We see real potential and growth opportunity for the business of the Big 12. In the area of the commercial partnerships and sponsorships, we see real upside. I'm incredibly bullish on the future of the Big 12. As we head into this new chapter in our industry, we will be at the forefront of innovation, and we're going to continue to positively disrupt while competing for championships at the highest levels. Before we get into questions, I'd like President Livingstone to add some comments. But thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Well, it's certainly been a privilege to be the chair of the board of the conference for the last couple of years. It's been an interesting and very busy and dramatically changing 2 years in athletics, so it's been a privilege to be a part of the conference and to help lead as chair of the board. And Chancellor Gerard will be fabulous to work with, so we all look forward to his leadership. Certainly want to thank Brett for his continued leadership of the conference and his aggressive approach to who we are in the conference and helping build our brand and the quality of what we're doing. As you know, we extended his contract recently just as a signal of support for what he's doing and our confidence in him leading us forward in this ever-changing landscape of college athletics. As Brett said, we had a really positive several days of meetings, probably one of the most collaborative and integrated meetings that we've had. And obviously lots of really significant issues that we were talking about, whether it's the House settlement or the CFP, or we had President Baker with us talking about the options for restructuring Division I decision making. So probably one of the more substantive meetings that we've had on issues that are really critical to the long-term success of our conference, but also to college athletics. So great collaboration among the presidents and chancellors. We've got a really good sense in the room and a really deep commitment to the conference and to our success going forward. So I'll stop there, and we're happy to take questions.
Absolutely. Those in the room, go ahead first. Whoever wants to kick it off, feel free.
Brett, on the 5+11, which obviously you all have put forward, I know the ACC is in support of that. With the SEC and Big Ten seemingly in charge of what direction this is going to go, what can you and the ACC, maybe some of the other conferences who are in support, do to try and push 5+11 through to the finish line?
Well, we're pushing 5 and 11. We have all week. I was also glad to hear that the SEC coaches supported, that format, which is critically important. We've had great collaboration with our colleagues. As all of you know, I'm on the management committee for the CFP. The 4 Power 4 commissioners have been meeting separately, vetting out different models and opportunities. When we were recently in Charlotte, we formally presented the Big Ten and the SEC with options that, one, we had a preference for, but also if we did end up going with an AQ model, which is not our preference, how we felt about that. We will look forward to continue dialogue with them. I'm sure we'll connect next week, and then we'll be together in person in a couple of weeks. But I think there's real momentum for 511. Certainly the public is voting yes for it, which I think is critically important, and it's a very good sign. And yes, the Big Ten and the SEC are leading the discussions, but with leading those discussions, they have a great responsibility that goes with it to do what's right for college football, and not to do anything that just benefits two conferences. And I have a lot of faith in the process, and I think we'll land in the right place.
Within that 511 format, do you want a bracket that's 1 versus 16, just a straight 16?
We would go straight 16, no different than what we just recently approved, 1 through 12.
Why do you have pushback on a model that guarantees the Big 12 2 spots?
That's a great question. In talking to our ADs and coaches, we want to earn it on the field. The 511 might not be ideal for the conference, but it's good for college football, and it's what's fair. And we don't want any gimmies. We want to earn it on the field, and that was the direction of the key stakeholder group, the ADs and the coaches, and I feel very comfortable with that. And I feel the same way, and I've been very outspoken about it.
What was your response or reaction when Greg Sankey seemingly took a shot at your statement and Jim Phillips' statement about wanting to do what's in the best interest of the game when it came to the seeding change?
I agreed with Greg's follow-up statement that I'd be entertained by it, and I was. And we all have thick skin here. You know, the neat thing about our relationship amongst the commissioners is we're going to battle. That's part of life. We're going to agree to disagree. We're kind of in that mode right now. But I have a lot of respect for my peers, and I know they have a lot of respect for me and Jim, and we'll end up in the right place.
What created that collaborative, integrative meetings this week with now not having on board new members? How helpful was that in having that collaborative effort in these meetings this week?
Well, first, I mean, as you guys all know, we've integrated 8 new partners, schools in the last 2 years. It's been a big undertaking, and I think we've done it very successfully. This is the first real spring business meeting where we brought all the key stakeholders together. It's been typically somewhat bifurcated. The football coaches did their own, basketball coaches, and then the administrators. We felt it was critically important and very much on strategy to bring everyone together so we could collaborate and have some thoughtful conversation. It was very successful, as Linda said, and we engaged and we focused on the things that matter most. Obviously, there's a lot out there right now that we need to be focused on, and we were laser focused in our meetings, and I think we made great progress.
Was anything up for a vote today with the board?
Nothing material other than just the day-to-day stuff.
The other thing I would say in terms of the collaboration, I think one of the things we did with the first 4 we brought in and then the next 4 we brought in, we had them start meeting with us in the year before they actually joined the conference. And so they were in all our meetings. They, of course, couldn't vote on anything officially until they officially started. And so really, you know, the 4 corner schools have really been with the conference almost 2 years in terms of meetings, and then the first 4 before that for a year beyond that. And so I think that really has helped, so that this wasn't really the first year we all worked together. They were involved, they were engaged even before they officially joined the conference. And I think that was a smart decision on the part of the conference in both of those transitions that has made it much, much smoother and helped to make this year a very collaborative year.
The football coaches have said they're united on one portal window. What would be the next steps for you and the Big 12 on that topic?
Well, we discussed the portal window with the coaches. We know what their preference is. We'll discuss that amongst the Power 4 commissioners here shortly. But I advocate for their position. They want a January portal. And we'll discuss that again with our peers and see where we can land this thing.
Brett, you've mentioned this, I think it was on the last football media days last year, that the possibility of private equity funding maybe going for the conference, and I think you mentioned something earlier this week about it. What has been that thought on the idea of having that influx or not having that influx for the conference?
Well, I gave a statement yesterday. We certainly went through the exercise, as we should, doing our due diligence, and it was very appropriate. At this point in time, we're putting it on pause. We understand what's out there at the capital markets. We know it very well. Our model was, though, very different. It was more of a bespoke model, custom tailored the potential needs of the conference, getting some strategic expertise and areas to grow the conference, but at the same time, potentially having a capital resource. But at this point in time, we decided to press pause. There's a lot of things going on, as we all know, in the industry that we need to focus on.
What is ESPN and Fox going to do to increase visibility in marquee television windows with this new 6-year media rights agreement? What changes in terms of the inventory window?
Great question. We have great media partners, obviously with ESPN and Fox, and then they've sub-licensed some of our content to TNT, CBS, and NBC. So really in our family now, we have 5 of the biggest distribution partners that exist in collegiate sports, which gives us an advantage to elevate and amplify our brand, to do more storytelling. When you think about the windows and being on broadcast television, because right now that's the widest reaching platform to be on. In our first 3 weeks, 11 of the games from Fox, 9 are on Big Fox. We're also featured on ESPN1 quite a bit in those first 3 weeks. So I'm very confident that our TV partners will continue to put us in the right TV windows so we can elevate and amplify what we do and tell the great stories around our student athletes and our conference. That being said, you've seen that we're moving a couple of games more so than we have in the past to Friday nights because there's clear air there. We've got a couple of games on Thursday nights, and we will continue to work with the board and the ADs on whether there are other windows that we can exploit with our TV partners. They're not disruptive to our campuses, but enhance, the viewership opportunities for our school.
Speaking of publicity, the Dublin game, Kansas State, Iowa State, the last 2 Pop-Tarts, one winner, by the way, local plug. Getting the brand international, how key is that?
Listen, I like the international narrative that we can create from a conference perspective. We'll be in Ireland this summer or this August, and then we repeat that visit in the summer of 26, which we're really excited about. In addition, our women's basketball team, I think it's Baylor, in fact, will be in Paris, and we're also going to play a baseball game in Mexico City. So we are taking our product and our content internationally. Basketball certainly is a global sport. There's more recruitment there for student athletes than ever before. So we think having a voice in the international marketplace is critically important.
Let's take some Zoom questions real quick. Ben, let's start with Chris Benini from The Athletic, followed by Ben Pornoy from SBJ.
Yes, for Linda, on the governance, obviously the P4 are looking for potentially 65% or more. There's been some pushback from others. Why is it important that the Power 4 have that much power, and are you concerned about any of the frustration elsewhere?
We've had really good discussions in the Division I task force about all aspects of that model. It's complicated going from a really complex model to a much simpler model, and clearly the voting percentages have been an important part of that conversation. I think we've had really open, honest discussions about it on the task force from folks both in the power conferences as well as those outside. And I think there's a recognition by many, certainly not by all, as you note, that the power conferences drive a lot of the viewership, a lot of the revenue, and so in that regard, there's probably a place for them having heavier weighting. We currently have heavier weighting in voting in the NCAA as the structure is now. This would just strengthen that some. It certainly doesn't give those conferences complete autonomy over everything that happens and requires collaboration and partnership. So I think it helps sort of recognize the role those conferences play across the NCAA while also giving voice to others in the process. So we'll see where we get to on it. We've got meetings coming up in the next couple of weeks, but I would say so far that's been a really collaborative and open discussion. I think we'll continue to see that as we refine what that ultimately looks like in the next few weeks.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Sure.
Hey, Brett, sort of similar to what Chris was asking, but to that point, I guess maybe Brett, Linda, you kind of answered this, but I guess Brett, when you look at sort of this governance structure and model, I guess what is kind of the impetus for it, and I guess can you walk me through a little bit of kind of, I guess for the Big 12 and as the Power 4, kind of what you guys would like to see out of this sort of reshuffling of this?
I think generally speaking, and I do speak on behalf of my colleagues, there is an appetite and a desire to have a little bit more autonomy, a little bit more control in decision making. in what's currently being discussed, I think we will land in a very desirable place. We understand the importance of being part of the institution and also being very collegial with our peers. But at the same time, we do feel that when it comes to control and autonomy, that there needs to be a little bit of a shift to the A4, at least more so than it currently exists. And those are the conversations that we're having right now.
The other thing I would say about the structure we're working on is to make it much flatter and hopefully much more efficient. It's been one of the biggest criticisms of the decision-making processes in the NCAA is how convoluted and complex and how long they take. And so that's also part of the intent here, is to make it a much flatter structure, a cleaner structure, get rid of a lot of committees so that we can make decisions much, much more quickly. And in the world we live in where things change regularly, we've got to be much more efficient about how we make decisions.
And Ben, I'll just also add that, Charlie Baker has been terrific throughout the process. He has listened to all the key stakeholder groups, but he does recognize that not everyone looks the same, operates the same, and there needs to be a bit of an adjustment and a modernization of what's being done there. The NCAA on a whole, as Linda said, but also as it relates to the Power Four.
Thank you.
We'll go to Jordan Mendoza from USA Today. Jordan, you're up.
Hey, I know you guys have kind of alluded to the fact that there seems to be a lot of momentum going on with the 5+11 model. I wanted to ask, do you feel like where's the progress headed towards getting a united front on that, and what do you think it's going to take to make sure that there is a united front to where everyone's agreeing on it, and by 2026, like this is the model that's going to be in place?
Well, I think it's still a work in progress. We do not need to notify ESPN, our media partner, of a format change until December. So effectively, we have now till then to vet through the concerns, the issues of any new format. There are some conferences that have some nuances around that date, other decisions that have to be made in advance of it. But the reality is we have some time now to work through the process, and it is a process. But I do anticipate something getting done sooner than later.
Do Bruce from the Arizona Daily Star. Bruce, if you can hear me, go ahead. And
Yeah, I was wondering, when you guys said you're talking about the House settlement, if it goes through as it's proposed now, I mean, are there guidelines or anything you guys are talking about as a conference as far as guidance or getting everyone on the same page as far as maybe everyone having the similar revenue shares for each sport, or the way you handle NIL? Is there anything kind of conference-wide the way you're looking at it?
Well, all I can tell you is that alongside the Power Four conferences, this has been a work in progress in getting prepared for hopeful approval of settlement for the last 12 months. There is an implementation committee that's really rolling up their sleeves to make sure that we are ready and prepared for this next new chapter. I feel really confident about where we're going and how prepared we are. In fact, as part of our meetings this week, we had the folks from Deloitte, who obviously will be overseeing the clearinghouse. We had the folks from LBI, who will be overseeing cap management. We had a multitude of conversations around being ready for settlement and what does that mean and the next steps. So I feel we're very prepared as a conference. But also, I speak for my colleagues in saying we're putting a lot of time and effort into this. It's not happening overnight. There's been a lot of due diligence, and I feel really good about where we are.
great. We'll do one more person one more question. Anyone in person have anything before I keep?
With Deloitte's NIL Go, you noted how confident are you and maybe that they're going to be able to enforce these NIL deals, of course, tied to the House versus NCAA, but just share maybe the pulse of what coaches are concerned about with the NIL Go.
Well, the coaches all received a presentation from not only Deloitte, from LBI. So if they had questions and concerns, they were able to share those with both parties. I feel very confident. But what I've said to our coaches and our ADs and our board is it's progress over perfection. It's not going to be perfect. It just won't be. but there'll be significant progress. And I am very confident that the College Sports Commission, which is obviously going to be the new enforcement agency overseeing settlement, will execute at the highest levels. And they understand their responsibility. And if you break those rules, the repercussions will be punitive.